What's up guys, 577 here, and as I said in my answering suggestions video, I'm going to be reading you a book by Mr. Gregory Dennison, and the book is entitled Olympus Rising. Now, I'll be doing this for the next few weeks. Please comment below, so that way you can tell me if you like it, if you don't. Just give me any suggestions or any comments down below, and I would really appreciate that. But to keep it within the regular storytelling mode, I will not be giving a warning beforehand. I will just continue reading with the story. I will announce the chapter, the title, and just keep going. But without further ado, let's get to the story. Olympus Rising by Gregory Dennison. God does not play dice with the universe. Albert Einstein. Everything we call real is made from things that cannot be regarded as real. If quantum mechanics has not profoundly shocked you, you haven't understood it yet. Anybody who says he can think about quantum physics without getting giddy only shows he has not understood the first thing about them. Niels Bohr. Not only does God play dice, but he sometimes throws them where they cannot be seen. Stephen Hawking. Prologue. Beginnings. Dr. Jared Stevens was puzzled as he stared at the graph projected on the screen of his tablet, haphazardly laying on the surface of the beer-stained bar before him. He sat in a small tavern a few blocks off campus and contemplated this latest failure as he nursed his scotch on the rocks. As a rule, he wasn't much of a drinker, but sometimes he felt it was warranted. This was one of those times. He had such high hopes for this newest approach, but he didn't see that it was having any noticeable effect on the outcome of the latest experiment. The data storage issue was still a major choke point. The quantum scanning hardware was working perfectly, but since it produced such a vast number of data points, there was simply no way to tag and retrieve it fast enough to get usable results. They were using several large banks of the most advanced tritium flash memory available on the market today as a storage medium, but even that was simply not up to the task of taking on the nearly instantaneous transfer of several terabytes of individual data bits. In this latest run, he had tried using a newer variation of his trinary coding system to encode all the data points, which were actually known as qubits in the quantum physics world. But there were still far too many generated in the scan. This last test had been run using the new coding in an almost desperate attempt to reduce the sheer volume of input by filtering out variables with a wide range of focus, reducing the resolution, as it were. But it appeared that this latest approach was yet another failure. The latest in a long string of them. He was beyond frustrated. He realized that frustration came with the territory whenever one was breaking new ground in any scientific endeavor. And this project was far from simple. Dr. Stevens was the senior project coordinator for a very gifted team of university students that were attempting to create an entirely new system of virtual reality, something that was totally immersive to the subject and far more advanced than anything else ever attempted. They hoped to achieve this unprecedented level of fidelity by broadcasting the simulation directly into the brain itself, bypassing the inherent limitations that came from physically stimulating the body's own senses with an external source. The ultimate goal was to create a system capable of recreating sensory input to all 5 senses within the simulation. To create something that was so detailed, it would be indistinguishable from true reality to the subject immersed within the virtual world. A sort of real-life version of the holodeck, made so popular in the hearts and minds of Star Trek fans everywhere. They had made several major breakthroughs already, basing their results on the discovery of the Cherenkov nexus in the human hindbrain. A few years ago, a brilliant Russian neurophysicist named Andrei Cherenkov had discovered that this particular nerve cluster responded to a specific wavelength of electromagnetic radiation, while the surrounding nerve cells ignored it. That discovery had proven instrumental in providing the direct neural pathway into the brain that Dr. Stevens needed for his own project. This nexus was a central nerve connection buried deep within the hypothalamus that tied into virtually all the human senses. The beauty of it was these nerves could be accessed through a complex series of pulsed, low-voltage electrical signals generated through a small wireless device positioned at the base of the skull. There was no need to surgically implant anything within the brain at all. This opened up all kinds of interesting possibilities for the uses of direct computer-brain interface. The difficulty lay in the mapping of all the neural pathways themselves. A very detailed digital snapshot of the subject's brain was required in order to make access even possible. The quantum scanner he was attempting to use should theoretically solve that problem. If he could just get it to work like the damn theory suggested it should. Ah, Jared, there you are. Got your message. What's up? He turned around on his bar stool and saw his old friend and colleague, Dr. Howard Wilson, standing there behind him. Howard ran the quantum science program over at the university, and his team was on the leading edge of all the latest developments in hardware tech. Howard's group was constantly pushing the technical boundaries forward and had been a huge help to his own team while they were developing the prototype quantum scanner he was currently so frustrated with. He didn't remember leaving Howard a message and telling him to meet him here, but he was getting a bit forgetful about stuff like that lately, so he didn't give it much thought. He was just glad to see him, since he was the one guy who might possibly be able to shed some light on his current dilemma. Oh, hey Howard. He ran his fingers through his hair in a show of exasperation as he sighed. I'm still having issues with the data storage and retrieval. The new encoding looks rather promising, but I simply cannot access enough of the data fast enough. I believe I told you that was going to be an issue when we knocked together that scanner for you. Even a brief snapshot of any physical object generates countless variables. Quantum entanglement is funny that way. I know, but I honestly thought I could overcome all that with a more creative approach to the software interface. So you have assured me many times, and believe me, I understand your frustration, but you have been beating your head against this problem for, what, almost 2 years now? Are you any closer to success? Some, Jared admitted. If I scale back the resolution to the extreme lower limit, I can access the rendering with the processing hardware I have available, but it's just not detailed enough for the neural interface to target effectively. I get no sensory feedback, except for an occasional vague, hazy image or random flashes of light and sound. This technology is capable of so much more. I just know it. I'm on the right track. I just need far more processing power and a much better way to store and retrieve all the qubits that scanner generates. Howard stared at him thoughtfully for a moment, then appeared to come to some sort of decision in his mind. I may have something that will help. It's not really my project to share, but I do know a guy who is working on a fascinating project along much the same lines as yours. One of my students, a brilliant young man named Scott Evans, was fascinated with the theory behind that scanner of yours and took on the challenge of encoding data within the very structure of the quantum foam itself. He may be onto something. His preliminary report looked very interesting. It may just be a solution to your little problem. Within the foam? Jared raised his eyebrows. How is that even possible? Why, that medium would be literally infinite. And quantum pairing makes it all instantaneously accessible. Billions of data bits could be stuffed in the space between every single molecule in the entire universe. Yeah, time and space get truly weird on that level. The entire universe, or the space between any two individual atoms on this countertop, become about one and the same for our purposes. Limitless. Howard shrugged, then continued. Evans thinks he can do it. If he can figure out a way to track and tag the qubits, he is pretty sure he can already crack the physical issues of how to actually insert them into the structure of the quantum foam. It involves manipulating some fairly complex magnetic fields that are generated by several rather large superconductors. And it takes a fair bit of energy to create the initial threshold gate, but I think it's doable. His work sounds fascinating. I would love to meet him and discuss the possibility of enlisting his help. I am certain I will be able to help him out with this tagging problem, since the latest generation of trinary coding was developed for doing exactly that. Keep me in the loop, Howard. There may be a paper in this for all of us. Hell, maybe even a Nobel.